Hello there, you beautiful people. I am RonMan, and today we're back with another review, and today it's going to be Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck for Sega Genesis. If you're new here and you like my content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as well as that bell notification so you stay up to date with RonMan Gaming. Chuck Rock 2 was developed by Core Design and published by Virgin Interactive and released on a whole bunch of systems back in 1993. Today, of course, we're talking about the Sega Genesis version. I find it weird that this game wasn't released on the Super Nintendo. Why? Was like the Super Nintendo too good or something? Chuck Rock 2 is a sequel to Chuck Rock and takes place shortly thereafter. In the first game, you play as Chuck Sr. on a journey to save his wife. In Chuck Rock 2, you play as the infant Chuck Jr. on a journey to save Chuck Sr. So, Chuck Rock had a kid. That means that between games, Chuck and his wife decided to have sexual intercourse. Chuck Sr. ejaculated in her vagina without a condom. Bunga bunga. There's a good chance they engaged in foreplay too. Maybe a 69, maybe she tossed his salad. Anyway, in Chuck Rock 2, Chuck Sr. is kidnapped by a rival car company because he's too good at making cars, I guess? I always thought Chuck Sr. was a bitch, so it makes sense that he has to get rescued by a baby. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you might know that I'm really not a fan of the first game, but Chuck Rock 2 is actually pretty good. Chuck 2 is a major step up from the original in every way. The game has greater variety, better mechanics, interesting levels, and is actually fun to play. The developers really added a much needed dash of flavor. But before I get to the game design, first I'll talk about Junior's abilities. He can jump, swing on ropes, attack with his club, and also stand on his club. Standing on the club is an ability that, in my opinion, was not executed well. It's only used for two reasons. Number one, to avoid certain enemies, and number two, to mount certain animals. The big problem is that you just don't use it very often and is really only necessary to ride a few animals. Because of this, it feels more like a tacked-on ability rather than one that the game was built around. Besides that, of all the abilities they could have programmed, why a club stand? That's not interesting at all, which is maybe why it's not well utilized. But imagine how much better this game would have been if, rather than a club stand, you could climb walls, or double jump, or glide. You know, something that's actually interesting. Either way, the abilities are fine and control well. Junior's life is represented by this bottle. You can find life refills, extra lives, and candy. The candy does nothing other than add points. From what I can tell, the points do nothing. Why do games do that? Every stage is littered with candy. You can tell that the developers really thought about where they're going to put the candy. And all for what? I don't get it. What the fuck? What's with points? Who actually cares about getting points? Unless the points actually do something. And do you know how many times I look at my score count? Never. I think Chuck 2's biggest strength is in the presentation, visual style, and variation in level themes. This really helps to reduce the monotony and add fun. For example, in the first stage, there's a part where a big dinosaur comes waltzing through the area while the other residents run away like a bunch of bitches. Then, later on in the same level, it starts to rain. All of this is happening while you're swinging on ropes, clocking enemies, and riding on dinosaurs. Later in the game, you'll be climbing a burning tree, riding a goat through a snowy mountain, and making your way through a dark cave, and those are just a few stages. All the levels in this game stand out and are unique. There are a number of boss fights, and while none of them do anything groundbreaking, they too have variety and are still fun. The first boss is a simple fight where you just need to get out of the way of his chomp, then attack. Later on, there's a tentacle monster where you need to knock his missiles back at him. Chuck 2 has 3 different mini-games: the apple tree, the river race, and statue carving. For each one you win, you'll earn a continue. These are actually pretty fun. River race is my favorite. Holistically, everything comes together really well. That's not to say there aren't any flaws though. There are just a few instances where jumps seem a little unreasonable. Like here, for example. They really didn't want you to make this jump. Chuck 2 also struggles to be intuitive. There are invisible platforms that are meant to lead you to secret locations. The only problem is that these platforms really are invisible. There's no indication at all to the whereabouts of these platforms. You just have to get lucky and find one by accident. This next thing I found to be an interesting design choice. In Stage 3, the Butterfly Gardens, sometimes monkeys are there to help you, but sometimes they're also there to hurt you. It's kind of confusing. They should have clearly indicated what's an enemy and what isn't. Also, there are butterflies everywhere. Visually speaking, it looks great. But there are these mosquito-type enemies who also fly and are roughly the same size as the butterflies. Because I had a hard time discerning the butterflies and the mosquitoes, I would often collide with the mosquitoes, taking damage in what seems like an unfair disadvantage. I also found the stage continuity to be, interesting. At the beginning of the game, everything seems fine. You start off in a village suburb, the next stage you're on a dinosaur's back, and then you're in the Butterfly Garden. Now that's all fine, but toward the end of the game, you'll be climbing a fruity mountain, then you're dashing through the snow, then you're in a sewer, followed by a junkyard. What the fuck? How do you get to a dank sewer from a snowy mountain? Overall, Chuck Rock 2 is a great game. It's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than the original. If you're looking to grab a copy, thankfully it's not too expensive at around $13 Canadian for a loose cart. Well, that's all there really is to say about Chuck Rock 2. I would definitely say it's worth your time to play. You may enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.